Hi guys, welcome to Grey Masala, and today we have a special guest. It's Pradeep, who was me and Divyam's batchmate in college.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Pradeep. I knew these guys from college. Me and Piyush were actually roommates back in first year, and we've been super close since. And I'm visiting these guys out here in London, so found this an interesting opportunity to join them.
And today we are discussing names, an incident around names, remembering names, how important it is to remember names, and all kinds of awkwardness that we face around this topic.
Say no more. This is the story of my life.
You have a story, or you have many stories.
Yes, depends on how many or whatever kinds of. There are stories that roll into other stories. So
Stories upon stories.
exactly. So, for example, this one time, I matched with a girl on Bumble. Um, um, let's call her, I don't know, Rachel. And when looking at her expression, there was like something that I thought was somewhat familiar or something with her smile or whatever. But I wrote it off, etc. And then we started talking a little bit. And then one day I just mentioned that, hey, I just came back home from attending pub trivia. And she was like, oh, I've never been to pub trivia. And the thing was, in all the time when I was sort of trying to recognize where have I seen her before, I thought it must have been in one of those instances where like I frequent a particular place and it must have been one of the people I was just, in passing had seen enough number of times that subconsciously her face must have registered. So I thought
Forget
I
the
must have
camera.
seen her at pub trivia. So I then go like, I would have thought that you have gone to pub trivia because it feels like that is where I would have seen you. And she says, will you believe it that we've actually met before?
So she
Okay.
remembered.
So she
Yeah.
remembered, and then it
You had
came-
matched with her before. You had gone on a date with her before.
No, it wasn't quite that.
Okay.
Um, and for the rest of that week, I was actually, trying to think, where have I met her before? Have I met her before? Have I not met her before, etc. And then towards the end of the week, I was like, oh, there was that one trip to the museum that I had gone with another friend. Let's call her Bianca. Like Bianca had had said, hey, let's go visit the MoMA. And I was like, yeah, sure. And while visiting, I found out that she had also called two of her other friends, spent the entire day at the museum with these three folks. And 6-ish months later, I match with one of those people, the girl.
Oh, so she was there the whole time in the museum.
Yeah, she was there
Yeah.
the entire day.
Right, yeah, that is embarrassing.
We sat through, the cafe lunch, everything.
It's
Wow.
not only just her name that you forgot, you also forgot her face, seems like.
Not exactly, because it was the expression that sort of rung some bells.
Okay, right.
So I was like,
So-
maybe I've seen her, maybe I haven't.
Yeah. Did you make it up to her? Like, what did you do?
I think by that time she had ghosted me. But there's
Story
more
of my
to this. Yeah, no, she had stopped replying by the time I realized who she was.
I mean, that's fair enough, like, on her
Okay.
part, right?
Yeah. Fast forward a few more months, I am now going to a play with Bianca, and so she's invited me. I assume there are some other folks coming. I meet her outside the theater, and she's with this other guy. And I'm like, hi, I'm Pradeep. And as he shakes my hand, he's like, "Yeah, we've met." um,
I'm curious how often this happens now.
so
Okay.
I think partly to do with you must be famous because I imagine to someone like Brad Pitt, this must happen all the time.
no, yes, no, it's not. I don't think this instance has anything to do with fame or anything.
Okay. So how did you know this guy? Where did he meet you?
So, to force the issue, I was like, "Yeah, I'm Pradeep. Who are you?"
Direct.
Did you say who are you or were you more polite?
No. I
Like,
think I
sorry, I
was
forgot. May I know who are you? Something
No,
like
I may have said that, but I was very blunt about using the words
Yeah.
"Who are you?" I would have.
Okay.
I may have been polite, like I forgot. I probably was. I've forgotten, etc.
Okay.
But I needed to force the issue.
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Charlie. I'm her brother." And when he said he's Bianca's brother, I was like, I remembered an entire dinner I had with them. We had, talked about all sorts of things. All of that came back to me, and I was like gushing. I was like, yeah, you're the guy who reads Brandon Sanderson and all these other books that I also like. We talked about this, that.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And then I wanted to normalize this as well. So I also went like, by the way, this thing happens to me all the time. For example, there
You
was
owned
this
up.
one. I
Yeah.
owned up completely.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. There was this one time where I matched with a girl on Bumble, and kid you not, at that moment, Rachel walks up to us.
Holy shit, she was there.
She was one of the friends that Bianca had invited to the play. And now, like, I am midway through owning up.
And did you recognize her this time?
I did.
Oh, good.
By then, I was like, yes, this is that person, yes. But I was like, it was embarrassment over embarrassment, wherein firstly, I was embarrassed for forgetting that he was, Bianca's brother. And then, in order to make light of the situation, I introduced Rachel, which then is the next embarrassment as she's walking. I'm like, now, can I continue the story? Can I not?
I'm just curious how Rachel was to you this time. Like, was she friendly? Did she forgive you? Did she forgive you?
Yeah, she forgave me.
Yeah.
I think she assumed that the Bumble conversation never happened.
I mean, that's embarrassing.
She was embarrassed herself.
Yeah, probably.
So that's why.
Yeah, I apologized to her then.
I mean, this
Sorry,
reminds
this
me of
happened.
like one of my stories. Like, so I have a very good friend Tuja, who you also know.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
became really good friends.
Yeah.
Right? And we were discussing, we had a common imagination of when we first met. But once we were
Okay.
discussing our first days in our university, and it turned out that she had gone for a walk in this guided tour, and I was also on that tour.
Right.
And the funny thing is we didn't remember each other from that tour.
Okay.
And the funny thing was that tour only had 4 people in total.
Whoa.
So we went on a whole guided tour. And we
Guided tour of?
of Oxford, where we were at.
Okay.
And so there were like 4 people. 2 of us were like me and Duja. And throughout the day, we just didn't notice each other.
Okay.
And then we became fast friends, and later on, we didn't even realize that our actual first meeting was on that guided tour.
Dude, that is just like me and Rachel, except Rachel remembered.
Oh, maybe Duja pretended to not remember.
Oh.
No, I had it out. She's very straightforward, and yeah. But like I'm very sensitive when people do that to me. Like when people forget
Yeah.
my name. I mean, especially if people, so mispronouncing name is something else.
Yeah.
Because that also happens when you're in a foreign country.
Yeah.
But sometimes when people don't mistake you for someone else, I'm like, are they being racist? Like,
Yeah.
especially if they mistake me for another person of color.
Yeah.
And I'm always be like, I always think there's an element of racism in it.
Yeah.
And you can never tell. And until I actually made the mistake myself, like.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, sometimes it's not always racism. Sometimes maybe I am racist. I don't know. Do you have any such stories?
Pradeep has one, I think.
Yeah, no, I have. This happened, I think, probably a month or so ago. No, a week or so ago. Me and some friends were going for lunch at the restaurant, and one of my friends, a couple, there's an Indian guy, and he has a Chinese wife. And when we went and we parked in the parking lot, and on the way walking towards the restaurant, we see a car drive up looking for parking, presumably pretty much to the same restaurant. The windows were up, but I thought I saw his wife in the passenger seat. And I thought I saw him in the driver's seat, but basically we saw through like the passenger seat, and as they were driving further up, we started waving to the car.
So it was okay, right? So
So
there was a car and there were passengers, and you saw someone who you thought you knew.
I thought that the couple in the car was my couple friends.
Yeah. And are they Indians or?
No. So the wife is Chinese.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And the person in the passenger seat was Asian. So
Right.
And the guy is Indian.
the guy is Indian, but also
Anyway.
I didn't have as good, like I didn't see who was driving so clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I made the assumption pretty much based on that, oh, A, they're coming to the same restaurant. B, she is Asian. She's probably, this guy's wife. They're just a couple in the car.
Yeah.
This is my friends. So I'm waving. I'm waving to them as they're driving past looking for parking. And then at one point they stop. They reverse backwards to kind of like make a U-turn almost. And she rolls down her window and she asks me, "What are you doing?" Well, probably not in my tone, but her words were literally, "What are you doing?"
Or who are you?
Yeah.
Like you to Priyanka's brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, by the way, you can park back there at the parking lot. But I think initially I didn't even recognize that she's not my friend's wife. And after a moment I did. And I was like, oh, sorry, we thought you were our friends. And then they were like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then they asked us, where should we park to go to the restaurant? And we pointed to the lot and said, yeah, that lot is for the restaurant. But in that moment, it was pretty much, like this entire misunderstanding or whatever happened because I thought that she was my friend's wife, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I think you're right. When it
it
happens to us,
It wouldn't have happened if they were all Indians, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Divyam? Do you have any such stories?
Not
Or-
anything similar. I mean, I have other stories, but in this case, I think it's about whether you're paying enough attention, right?
Right. It's all
Yeah.
about attention.
Yeah, I mean, between Indians, right? Like, I have cousins who are twins, and I can tell exactly which twin is which.
Right.
And this is,
Two completely different people.
Exactly.
Live completely different.
Exactly.
Yet you mistook them for one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
yeah.
I think, like, the thing about attention is, I've grown up with my twin cousins for a super long time. I probably would have mistaken them for each other in the first few days. But, over time, seeing them next to each other, you know what differences there are, like in the hairstyle or
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's attention and familiarity too,
Yeah.
somewhat. Yeah.
One goes with the other. Attention
Yeah.
comes out of the familiarity.
I mean, yeah, because with familiarity is like it happens a lot in parties where you meet people. Parties are occasions where
Yeah.
you meet people for the first time usually. Lots of people for the first time, and it's
No.
such a minefield of getting names wrong.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, I have some stories to share.
Yeah.
Case of a party. I mean, in general, I am very conscious whether it's, I may end up being called a racist or someone who forgets names or anything. So in any case, I'm like very conscious. I would, rather avoid having a conversation with someone
Yeah.
than,
Than getting their name wrong.
getting their name wrong. And
Yeah.
not sure if that's the right approach, but that's what I end up doing. So recently I just came to London in February, and I was in a housewarming, and I met a girl there, and her name was Anusha.
Yeah.
So we had a good conversation, and then I was talking to some other girl. I think her name was Ankita. And then while talking to Ankita, I had to refer back to some conversation that I had with Anusha.
Yeah.
Now, Anusha is also, standing right there in front of me. And I have to refer back to this conversation. I'm like 90% or more than 90% sure that her name is Anusha. But still, I'm still a bit scared. I'm like, what if her name is not Anusha? And I want to say something like, as I talked about this XYZ incident with Anusha.
Yeah.
So
You want to
usually,
reference her, yeah.
Usually I would just avoid taking names. And
Yeah.
I'm really scared. What if I get the name wrong? I don't know if I really have to be that scared. But that day I
No, I
just took
can
a
relate.
leap of faith, and I just said, as I was talking about this thing with Anusha, and turns out her name was Anusha, so it was fine. But in general, I'm very scared, and I end up not initiating a lot of conversations with people
Right.
because I'm not sure if I got their name right.
Right. The examples I gave earlier of me being blunt, I think the thing with me is I can sort of own up easily when it is early on. Like with Charlie, I was like,
Makes
But
sense.
with, the more later it is, the more awkward it gets.
Yes.
Right.
So in your example where you referenced Anusha, if I was in your shoes, even if Anusha is in front of me, I would be like in a previous discussion or with her. I would no. I would put my foot in my mouth there.
I think I think people just appreciate that. At least you acknowledge them. Like
Yeah.
her in this case. People just
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Like
I think,
what I would have done would have been so much worse.
Yeah, in my head, there's this struggle where I know that, people generally feel good when you refer to them with their first names.
Exactly.
I'm aware of that. I want to use their first names as much as
Exactly.
possible. On the other hand, I'm so scared whether I've gotten their name wrong.
Exactly.
And there's this tussle between these two ends
yeah.
that I end up being maybe awkward and not just having a conversation. And that's not right, of course. That's what
I
I'm
mean,
assuming.
and on the flip side, I think if you just take it as a rule that you have to remember names, you have to use names. One can tend to go overboard. Like, let's say if I were a salesman selling you something. Hi Divyam, it was very nice to meet you, Divyam. You look great, Divyam. Would you like to buy this, Divyam? It would just sound awkward, right? Like,
Yeah, if you overdo it, of course.
I think there's a naturalness to it that I think it's the naturalness that people appreciate, that you genuinely like them. So you remember their names. It's the authenticity that people require.
Yeah.
Rather than just being a matter of whether my name was remembered or not.
Yeah.
And
So are you trying to say that it's not that important to remember people's names?
I think I think you've
You
nailed
gotta
the question
remember.
here, haven't you? Like how important it is.
No, what I'm trying to ask is it something that we should be bothered about? And if yes, what are the ways of, avoiding getting
Yeah, I mean,
awkward in such conversations? How to remember names of people or faces of people?
Or how to find out people's names when you know you've met them, but you
Yeah.
also know you've forgotten their name.
yeah, those how to avoid those awkward moments. So
Yeah.
basically, in university, I went to a lot of parties.
Yeah.
And this is something I had a lot of practice on. Like because in university environment you keep running across people from all kinds of different colleges,
Right.
and especially in Oxford where I went, people were very tactful, and so there were some
Right.
strategies that I deployed. One was like when once the person first introduces themselves, you kind of repeat their name. So you say
Hi, I'm Pradeep.
and say, "Hi Pradeep, nice to meet you." So once I
Yes.
vocalized it, my body will tend to remember it. Or I could like
Yes.
draw an association with some other Pradeep or some celebrity that I know who sounds
Yes.
has a name similar to you. That helps.
Yep. I think that particularly helps if it's a name that we find hard to pronounce because we've hardly heard that name before.
Exactly.
Right?
So the person has an opportunity to correct you if you got it
Exact-
wrong.
yep.
Right. Yes,
Yep.
that is true.
So I'm sorry. So what you're saying is when someone is introducing themselves, so if Pradeep is introducing himself to you,
Shall we do it again?
you will try to
Let me do
find
it
ways
again.
to remember his name. Is that what you're saying?
Let me do it again with a completely different name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hazuki.
Hi Hazuki, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Because I uttered the word, I'll tend to remember it more.
Okay, I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Or I can remember in my mind I can go Hazuki.
Hi, Hazuki.
And in my mind, I'm going, Hazuki reminds me of bazooka. This guy is bazooka. So if I draw an association in my mind, I wouldn't say it in out loud.
Yeah.
When every time I see him, I'm like, his name sounded a bit like bazooka. Oh, Hazuki.
But what if you still get it wrong? When you end up saying "Hi, Bazooki," that would be even
that
more
would
awkward,
be
right?
awkward. So,
Yeah, I know.
so if you haven't heard it, it's a good idea to say,
Yeah.
would you tell me how to pronounce it
Yeah,
correctly?
Exactly.
I get your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other hacks?
There are other hacks. I mean, a really good one is to introduce if you're in a party and you're a group, and,
Right.
and you've already been introduced. Let's say I'm already introduced to you, and it's awkward for me to ask your name again.
Right.
I'll introduce my friend. This
Right.
is my friend Steve. And
Oh, hi, Steve. I'm Pradeep.
yes, and now I've got your name, right?
Right.
That's a good one.
Without revealing that I forgot that person's name.
Yeah, that works, and that's
Yeah.
natural.
That is it. I was thinking of another one. I think if it's someone you're really close, right?
Yeah.
We've met 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
and now it's like it would be extremely awkward to own up that you don't know their name. What I tend to do is ask for. Oh, I would really like I would ask for their contact number, for example, and while saving their contact number, I'll be like,
How do you spell your name?
"How do you spell your name?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also super useful. For the party setting, interestingly, in general, it's like where you have to learn a lot of different names. I actually find improv name games really useful for this.
Improv name games.
Improv name games.
What are those?
So my favorite one, and I can tell you this because I actually, I still remember the guy's name who introduced the game to us because of the game, literally. So essentially, you make up an alliterative adjective for your name. And not just that, you also add an action along with it. In improv, we generally play it where the action doesn't
For your own
necessarily-
name or for the other person's
For
name?
your own name.
Right.
So you introduce yourself. For example, I would go, "Hey guys, I'm Pensive Pradeep."
Yeah.
And now you have an action to go with the name. You have the alliteration to go with the name. Like I still remember the guy who introduced us to this. His name is Josh, and he started off with like, "Hey guys, I'm Jackhammer Josh."
But that helps other people remember your name. You're talking
No,
about
everyone
things
does.
that
Everyone does this.
No, but how do you
So
enforce that in a party setting?
In a party setting, like
No, right.
you probably need to enforce it at the start of the party, because when everyone is kind of new to everyone else, then everyone does like one round of this improv.
Oh yeah, so it's a good way to
It's like
to
a breaking
good
the ice.
introductions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I can really see the value of any game like that, because remembering names is a universal problem. Everyone has that problem. So if you just bring it out there in the beginning as an introduction game,
Yeah,
it helps everyone, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. Over time, once you get to know your friends, a fun version of this is to make up these adjectives for each other's names.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you can pull each other's leg.
Yeah, and I think the principle at play is, again, it's like by association you remember it.
Yep. Yep.
Do you guys use common nouns? Like I tend to call a lot of people bro. So I would just say bro this, bro that.
Yeah. I think I overuse bro, but I'm also.
I mean, it's a bit hard with like a woman you like.
Yeah.
Or even a woman you don't like.
आजा बहन एक सुट्टा मारते हैं. Doesn't sound
How
too
are you
bad.
doing, lady?
Lady. A lady is a
Ma'am.
good word.
But you can't bro everyone. You can't bro your boss at a party, for example, like a senior figure at a party, or someone special. You can't bro them.
Boss? No, that is. That kind of. Hey, boss, what's up? No.
I mean, we are looking for like a universal form of address that would apply. It's a bit hard.
I don't know.
That,
I mean, I think like if you can get it out there, and if you can own up and you're like, hey, sorry, this happened, but I've forgotten your name. This is my name.
I know, right? It's so easy and it's honest. And
it is honest.
It's more about the vibes. If you still share those kind of vibes with that person, they'll get it. But it's easy to forget names.
Yeah.
But so in his case, if we go back to the first story that he shared, that girl probably didn't like it or ghosted him or whatever, was because he just couldn't remember her at all. Not because he didn't remember her name.
And even if he did, if he just apologized,
if you remember the good vibes you shared, I think.
No, if you just said sorry, I didn't remember your name.
Yeah.
Would it have worked?
It might have. I think the thing I said was much worse.
What did
something
you say?
Maybe once we meet the next time.
What did she say first?
No, so she was like, I guess I wasn't memorable enough.
And
I, at that time, was thinking she's doing a bit.
Okay.
Like, playing along or pulling my leg, being like, hey, we've never met, but she's like saying that she's not memorable. And I was like, oh, we should meet, and then I'm sure you'll be memorable after that.
Holy shit. You do not say that to a girl.
So she was, I think she was expecting you to put yourself on the spot, but you still put her on the spot again, and that's what she didn't like. And
If you had apologized, I think
Yeah.
that's the thing about being vulnerable. I think it's
Yeah.
the thing that connects. And if you had just apologized, she might have appreciated you even more, because she would have seen your humanness in forgetting, and then your humility in apologizing.
In other cases, I can apologize, especially if it's blunt and in the initial interaction. But in that case...
Maybe it's just about being yourself, being authentic. As we said about authenticity, being human, being vulnerable. You have all these tactics you can deploy if you are inclined to. But I think in the end, it's the vulnerability and authenticity that people appreciate.
Right.
Yeah,
Truly agree.
So that's it for now.
that's it.